What does Ozempic do to brain health? If you were wondering, Ozempic has far-reaching benefits beyond weight loss, and I'm going to show you how. Ozempic can supercharge brain health and reduce your risk of cognitive decline and dementia. First, I'll tell you a story about how my patient's brain was amplified on this peptide. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what Ozempic does to brain health. So one of the studies out of Oxford in England, what they did is they took 60,000 people and they looked at all their medical records who were type 2 diabetics. And they compared the patients who were using Ozempic or semaglutide versus the ones who were not, and they looked at the cognitive function in these patients. And what they found is that there was a 28% reduction in cognitive decline and a 48% reduction in dementia in the diabetic patients who are using semaglutide as part of their overall treatment strategy. Now this is phenomenal because a lot of us wonder, well, how does something like a GLP-1 that we know of helps with glucose metabolism have any impact on the brain? The reason you're here is to get the answer to that. And let me explain what happens in the brain. So when your brain has proper glucose utilization, or when your neurons have glucose as an energy source, they can fire. If you don't believe me, if you've ever had your blood sugar crash and you've tried to think about something really deeply, it doesn't last long. Like my brain doesn't work well if I don't have my blood sugar nice and stable. And what we found is it's no different. When you have Alzheimer's, for example, a lot of researchers are calling that type 3 diabetes because it's an insulin resistance in the brain. And so what GLP-1s do is this is a glucagon-like peptide that helps create more insulin sensitivity so that your cells can actually bring the glucose in. So instead of your cells rejecting glucose and rejecting insulin and saying, hey, we've got enough, we're good, now the cells can actually take that substance in and utilize it as an energy source. So the first thing is you're going to get more insulin sensitivity, and then the downregulation of the appetite means that you'll have less inflammation overall because you're not overeating, which is great. The second way that Ozempic can help the brain, or GLP-1s can help the brain, is what researchers have identified, and we need more data on this, but they've actually seen that there's an upregulation of dopamine. And this is interesting because in that same study out of Oxford, the Oxford Journal of Medicine, they also found that people who use nicotine were less addicted than people who didn't use the GLP-1s. And so what they realized is that the GLP-1 actually helps work on the dopaminergic pathways in the brain so that you feel that reward center. Now this is a breakthrough because one of the very new medications that you'll see on the market very soon is called HA931. And what they've done is they've taken semaglutide, which is Ozempic, so they took the GLP-1 with the GIP, which is tirzepatide, and added glucagon, which is retatrutide, and then they added IGF-1, so it's a quadruple agonist, and they found that medication actually helps with alcoholism. And that's one of the primary pathways that they're taking it to market. And what we've seen is people can quit smoking easier. I've had clients who get rid of alcohol very easy without any kind of willpower needed for the most part. We also see that people lose the binge eating disorder. So a lot of people who we work with, when they're under stress, they seem to binge eat, and that's their comfort. And so we can use these GLP-1s to help modulate that. By working on the dopamine pathways, people just seem to be a little happier. Now, these two things are really powerful for the brain, but the third thing is probably the most important aspect of it all. So if you think about the benefits of Ozempic to the brain, yes, it was a shock to me as well. We think of this as just a weight loss medication or just for diabetes, when in all actuality, it can be very neuroprotective. It can be one of the best ways that you can get rid of any kind of addictions like food cravings and nicotine and anything that may be damaging. And then the third thing that it does is it allows your brain to dispose of glucose more rapidly so that you're using that energy that your brain needs on a day-to-day basis. And so one of the things that we found in clients that we've worked with on Ozempic, we put them on other peptides that help influence the brain. And so one of the treatments that we utilize is called cerebrolysin. And so one of my clients came in and she said, I'm worried about cognitive decline. My husband said I forget everything and I don't even know if I do or not. I'm like, well, yeah, probably you don't remember if you forget a lot of things. But she did notice that it was causing tension in her own personal life. And so we said, let's try cerebrolysin infusions. And what happened to her is she started to notice her brain turn back on. She started to see that we could see the flicker in her eyes. But what cerebrolysin is these are peptide structures that actually they come from brains of pigs, and it was formulated primarily in Austria. But what we found is that it allows your brain to have better cognition, lays down better acetylcholine, and when you combine that with the GLP-1, we had her on tirzepatide, she found that she was able to think again. And her husband actually commented and he said, oh wow, Lorraine seems like a totally new person. He was so grateful because now she had the cognition that she was looking for. Not only that, but she had better metabolic function, she had less inflammation. But what she noticed is that she was actually happier because she had the dopamine response. Because once she cleaned up that glucose disposal system in her brain, she had the neural protection that is known to be supported with the GLP-1s, but she also had this great impact of the nootropics with the acetylcholine from the cerebrolysin. So there's so many great benefits of the GLP-1s. We're just scratching the surface. And if you want to know what peptides to stack with your GLP-1s, with anything like Ozempic or Mounjaro, you want to check out my videos below. So if you love learning about what Ozempic does to your brain, I've got another video that talks about all of the key peptides that you can stack with Ozempic, and you can find it here in the link below, and I'll see you in the video.